the game. And I can toggle back and forth. Sorry, I'm just playing around with this, guys. Gotta excuse my ignorance here. Yeah, perfect. Picture in picture. Cinema. Okay. This is me. I'm going to hide myself because you don't need to see me looking at the other screen like this. And you can like see up my nostrils or whatever. So this is going to be the fourth video in the basics of Empires of the Millennium. And what we're going to do in this video is we're going to show you how to campaign. And the game I have open here is the Empires of the Millennium Vassal module. And this is the 1.0 version of the Vassal module. Get my coffee going here too, so give me a moment. I'll have a sippy. And where we're at right now is I'm playing the game in the background where I'm running all 6 empires. And that game is into Epoch 5. And a lot of stuff's happening. And we're going to show you a campaign using the map where we're at right now and how it works in the game. And to do that, we've got a handy dandy player aid, which I've created to get us at least started on the campaign procedure. All this stuff's draft, so you know it needs editing. The player aids themselves need editing. I caught some stuff already, and the final version will hopefully be cleaner, but it at least gets us started for testing purposes. And this is the campaign procedure, so we're going to work through that together, and I'll show you how it works with a real example here. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a campaign, which I'm thinking about doing anyway in the game, because the Byzantines, they're spread out well. They're not super thinned out, and I think it's time for some people to start taking some shots at them, including maybe the Norse over here in Russia. So, and might be using the Hungarians to accomplish that. Of course, the Byzantines might be seeing that coming. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a campaign in Hungary. Okay, and first example we're going to do is we're going to have the Byzantines march into Hungary, and they're going to call the campaign special action there. And so then to do the campaign special action, you just go to the campaign procedure player aid and work through it. So the first thing you do is you determine sides. So the campaigner, in this case, that's the Byzantines, faces all other pieces combined in opposition. What that means is the 2 Byzantine cubes are the campaigning cubes, and the 3 neutral pieces are the opposition pieces. Okay, so that's how you split it up. In the event that the Norse have marched into Hungary with a goal of either taking Hungary or threatening the Byzantines, kind of Eastern European flank, then the Byzantines are the campaigner. They marched in and they called for the campaign action. Then the combination of the neutral pieces and Norse pieces are all opposition. So everybody else in the space where you're campaigning will be in opposition to your pieces. Okay, that's what step 1 means. But we'll just do the basic example of Byzantines versus neutrals in Hungary. So second step in the procedure is each side rolls a number of d6 equal to their leader's military rating. Okay. In this case, the Byzantine leader is Basil the Bulgar Slayer. And we'll drop him on the map here. And we'll zoom in so we can see him. And Basil's military rating is a 2. So what this means is the Byzantines get to roll 2 dice, 2d6 during the campaign. And the neutral faction has no leader. When the neutral faction has no leader, they roll 1d6. So it's going to be 2 Byzantine dice versus 1 neutral dice. Okay, neutral die. Now, in the event that the Norse are in Hungary, right, and the Byzantines are campaigning against a combined opposition, then if multiple factions, including neutral, are in opposition, so that would be that circumstance, then use the lowest military rating among opposition leaders. Okay, so the Norse leaders in this epoch, are Sven Forkbeard and Harold Bluetooth, and their military rating is actually a 2, right? But in this instance where the Byzantines have marched in and called for the campaign, the lowest rated military leader is the neutral leader, only rolling 1 die. So you can pick as the campaigner where you can kind of cause lower military rating uh, defenders. However, usually the flip side of that is you're going to be facing more defenders. Okay, so that's the point of that rule. Bluetooth and Forkbeard will dump them over this way. Oh, no, we won't. There they go. Okay. So the next step is to check if any side gets rerolls granted by a capability, event card, or leader. So certain capabilities, event cards, or leaders will let you re-roll D6. You also may gain D6 that you can roll on campaign. And in this instance, our Byzantine Empire have Greek fire available to them because they took that event capability early in the game. And what Greek fire does is it allows you to re-roll a D6 adjacent to the Black Sea or the Aegean Sea. And Hungary is adjacent to the Black Sea. And so that means the Byzantines here will get to re-roll one of their D6, which could come in very handy. Okay, so then go back to the campaign procedure. You roll the dice, and then the side with the high roll wins. Okay, so Byzantines are going to roll their 2d6. They roll a 3 and a 6. So their high roll is a 6. And they could re-roll the 3 if they'd like, and they might as well. It doesn't, well, actually it's a 50-50 that it improves. So they'll roll it, and they roll 3 again. Okay, so the same situation. A 3 and a 6. High rolls a 6. And then the neutrals roll, and they roll a 2. Okay, so it's 6 Byzantine versus 2 neutral. The side with the high roll wins, so the Byzantines win with a high roll of 6. If tied for high roll, we'll show you that next. So then you go down to step 5 because we're not tied for the high roll. Remove the differential between the winning and losing die rolls as casualties from the losing side. And then you have a casualty priority, right? So the first casualties have to come from cubes. The second casualties have to come from revealing a hidden cylinder. The third casualties have to come from removing already revealed cylinders. And then the fourth group of casualties are discs. What this means is, because the differential between the Byzantine high roll of 6, it's not letting me do it up there, interesting. Byzantine high roll of 6 and the neutral high roll of 2, that 6 minus 2 is 4. So the differential is 4, right? And that means the Byzantines have landed 4 casualties in this. So the first, there are cubes present, so they have to take casualties first. So that's the first casualty is 1 cube, second casualty is a second cube. And then we have a hidden cylinder present. So the next casualty would be to flip that cylinder. And then the Byzantines still have a 4th casualty to apply. And that 4th casualty would be applied by removing that hidden cylinder. Okay, so that's how the casualties function within the priority groups. The side landing the casualties gets to decide where the casualties are landed on the opposition, right? So you could have an instance where the Byzantines are campaigning in Hungary, but there's also revolt in Hungary. Okay, the Byzantines, if they land 4 hits in the situation, have to take the cubes first. 1 hit, 2 hits, 3 hits, and then for their 4th hit can flip the cylinder, but they can't eliminate the cylinder and leave the revolt in place. The revolt's a cube like any other. Okay, and another example where the Hungarians have built fortifications and the Byzantines are attacking and they score 4 hits. The 4 hits would have to come from the 4 cubes. And then within cubes, fortifications always take the last hit. So the Byzantines would need 4 hits or 4 casualties in that combat in order to remove the fortification. Okay, they probably don't want to remove the fortification because they would like to take it over for themselves. However, one of the rules is that you have to apply casualties to the fullest extent possible. Meaning in that situation, you can't decide to forego the hit on the fortification cube. You have to remove it. Okay. After that's done, so we'll just go back to our basic example where the Byzantines landed 4 hits and wiped everybody out. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then the final step, number 6, is to remove 1 casualty from the winning side. If their high roll, so in this case, the Byzantines' high roll was a 6, If their high roll was a 6 and an A, a 5 or 6 and a B, or your 5 or 6 and a C communications. So if you remember on the map, sorry, wrong window, that each location has a communications rating. Hungary is a C, Bulgaria is a B, Constantinople, we can't see it, but is an A. And the communications rating is going to impact this part of the game. In that, although the Byzantines successfully campaigned in Hungary, because they rolled a 6, they lose one of their own cubes while on campaign there. Essentially, in a C, you're going to have a 50-50 chance of losing a cube by campaigning there, right? So you have to bear that in mind when you're deciding on how many cubes to move in and whether or not to campaign in certain locations. With that done, the campaign procedure would be over. The Byzantines would control Hungary now. Oops, they wish they had that cylinder there. That would be nice for them. So they get a control marker. Greek fire will just put back Constantinople as our reminder. And they would lose Bulgaria in this case because they marched out of it, but you wouldn't probably do that in the game. And that finalizes how a campaign works. It can get more complicated in terms of how many other pieces you have in there. But if you just start the campaign by splitting sides, like purple campaigning against all other pieces and move the all other pieces to the other side, for example, in the Kievan Rus, then you should be able to keep it pretty straight. You just walk through the process here. And one thing we didn't go through is ties. So we'll do the ties now just to show you how that works. So we'll pull back up our situation prior to that campaign being completed. So the neutral Hungarians had a cylinder and 2 cubes in the space. And let's say that the Hungarians rolled a 6 as well. So in this situation, the Byzantines rolled a 6 high roll, and the second roll was a 3. And then the neutrals rolled a 6 for their high roll. Okay, so that's a situation, and that means that we have a tie for the high roll. So if you look in section 4 of the campaign procedure, if you're tied for the high roll, then the second highest roll wins. Okay, well, in this case, the neutrals don't have a second highest roll. So what do we do? Well, you read it as if the neutrals rolled another die, and that rating was a 1. It'll always be a 1, and you work down for however many die are remaining. So in the event that the Byzantine roll was a 6 and a 1, then the neutral roll would have been 6 and 1. And say the Byzantines rolled a third die, and it was a 1, and the neutral's next roll would be a 1, and on and on. Okay. The second highest roll wins, right? So in this case, the Byzantines would win by 3-1 against the neutrals. Another way you could do the same thing is you add the second roll to the first. So the Byzantines rolled a 3 and 6, which is a 9. The neutrals rolled a 6, and then you infer a roll of a 1. So they rolled 6 plus 1 is 7. And then you calculate the differential between the two, which is 2. And that tells you how many casualties to take. Okay. Now, in that instance, even though the Hungarians won thanks to their second highest die roll of a 3, their highest die roll was still a 6. And that means they still suffer that attrition in the C communication. So they still suffer a casualty themselves with a high die roll because it was 6. Okay, so that's how ties are handled. And that in general gives you an idea of how the system works for conducting campaigns. So with that, we'll end this one. And then in the next one, maybe we get into drawing a blank on what I was going to try and get into next. But something else essential to the game. But for the most part, we've got 90% of the game basic mechanics laid out, and we can just start playing. Thanks.